everyone, Karen here. Today we're going to be making a diorama card. Now this card can be applied to pretty much any stamp set you have in your stash. And we're going to do this one and we're going to attach it to a 5x7 card base so people still can open it like a traditional card. But the diorama part will be on the front and it does fold flat to go into your 5x7 envelope. So this can be adapted to pretty much anything like I said. And this one, you can see this one I made chickens. This one is the dog version of the cat one we're going to use today. And this one is a digital set, which we'll talk about later. So let me get this camera turned around and I'll show you how we're going to get this done. Alright, before we get started, let's talk about what we're going to need. So we're going to need a 5x7 card base, and that's basically a 10x7 folded in half. You're going to need 2 pieces of paper that are 5x7 that are colored. You're going to need one that is 1 inch by 7 1/4, and that needs to be white. We're going to do ink blending on that. You're going to need 2 4x2 pieces of paper, and those don't have to be white. These are just going to be folded along the side, so it doesn't really matter what color those are. And then you're going to need a 5x7, also white, because we're going to do some ink blending on this. Now the first thing I want to talk about is the frame. Now the way I'm going to make the card today is with a mat and a layer on the frame, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Now there's a couple ways we can get to this point. I'm going to use the trimmer here today and show you how to do it that way. And I'm going to use this very bright orange and yellow, red and orange, so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to move this up here. So I'm going to take this along the 7-inch side, and I'm going to move it down 3/8 of an inch. 1, 2, 3 to 6 5/8. And I'm going to run my finger along here to make sure I'm lined up nice and straight. And I'm going to put this down here, and I'm going to come up here to 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. And I am going to cut down to 4 5/8. So that way I still have 3/8 left. So I'm going to flip it around and do the same thing again. I'm going to line it up at 7. Bring it in to 3/8. 1, 2, 3 to 6 5/8. I am going to start at the 3/8 here on the top, and I am going to come down to the 4 5/8 mark. Now I'm going to flip it to the short side, which is 5 inches. So we're going to come in 3/8 of an inch there. So that puts us at 4 5/8. Right here. I'm going to make sure we're nice and straight. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to come up here to the 3/8, and I'm going to come down. And don't worry if you don't come all the way down, because it's very easy to cut the corner out once you have, the section of it done. So here we go. We're going to go to 5. We're going to move it in 3/8 to 4 5/8. Make sure we're nice and straight. We're right there. Bring this down. Come back up to 3/8. And we're going to come down again to the 6 5/8. Now when we take this out, we just have the little bit of the corners to cut out. And I'm just going to take my little scissors and I'm just going to snip this out. And you're better off going under where you want to cut it versus over, because then you cut into your frame. And this is just as easy to snip. Just snip there. Oh, that one was exactly right. And then we'll just snip this one here. Like that. So this is our skinny one. So now we want a thicker frame. Alright, so now we need to cut the second one. So we want this one to be a thicker frame than this one. So the orange one, we took 3/8 off. So the second one, we're going to take a 1/2 inch off. So to do that, we're going to take the 7-inch side and bring that down to 6 1/2. Going to make sure we're lined up correctly. Let's make sure we're all nice and straight before we get started here. All right, 6 1/2. And we're now going to come up here to 1/2. We're going to start here where this says 1/2, and we're going to come down to 4 1/2. We're going to turn it. Now we're on the 5-inch side, so we need to take it down to 4 1/2. We're going to come back up here to 1/2. And we're going to go down to 6 1/2. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other two sides. We're back on the 7-inch side again, so we're going to bring that to 6 1/2. We're going to come up here to 1/2. And we're going to come down to 4 1/2. Now the last side, you're going to want to make sure you're holding on to this nice and tight, because it may want to come a little loose on you. So when we go to 4 1/2, because this is the 5-inch side, we're going to come down to 4 1/2, and we're coming down to 1/2 over here. I'm going to put my hand on the part we've cut and the part that we haven't cut yet, and I'm going to hold it in place carefully as I go down to 6 1/2. All right, so this one is popping right out. So now that gives you 2 frames that you can mat and layer. Just like that. And this is the one that I had done beforehand, because I'm going to use blue and pink. Alright, so there's that part. Now let's deal with this part right here. Now this here is going to be the part that the pieces are going to sit on. Like this chicken one. It's this part right here that it's going to sit on. So that's what we have to make now. So our card is 5 by 7, so this is 7 1/2. So what we're going to do is we're going to score 1/4 inch on each side. Now I will say, if you're afraid this is going to get too bulky, you can take this after you cut it to 7 1/2 and just take the slightest sliver off. And now I am still going to score, get that lined up, 1/4 inch on each side. What that does is it makes this middle piece just slightly less than 7, and that way you won't have too much bulk in the middle of your card. So we're going to take 1/4 inch off of each side, and that will fold back. Now what I want to do is, if you see on this one there's 2 layers here, so what I simply did is I took my 1-inch one and I went across and I just kind of cut a wavy pattern, and I ended it where the 2 ends were down, not on the up, and the whole, I think it just looks better that way. So now I'm going to take the piece I cut off and glue it to the front. And that will be the piece here for the middle. So let me grab the glue. And I'm going to prep all these pieces, and then we're going to ink blend everything all at once. So I am going to put a little glue here. And this will give it a second to set up while we score the last piece of paper that we have to score. Alright, so we're going to line this up at the bottom and the sides. And we'll just let that dry. So now we'll have a piece that has a layer on it. And it'll look like grass or dirt or whatever it is we want to ink blend it to look like. So the last thing we have to score, let me move that out of the way, are the pieces that are 4 inches by 2 inches. Now on these here, let me move this down. I'm just going to pick a spot again here to score this on. We're going to score these every 1/2 inch. So here's a 1/2, 1, 1 1/2, and then 2 will end up being the other side. So we just have to score it at 1/2, 1, and 1 1/2. Then this will fold in half and fold down to make a piece that kind of looks like an M or a W. So once again, we're going to score this, the other one, at 1/2, at 1, and 1.5. And then it will fold in half, and you will fold the sides back, so it gives you the M. Alright, that is all the scoring that we have to do. Alright, so now we're ready to do some ink blending. So we will ink blend this piece here and the piece that is going to hold the diorama part that will float in the middle. Make sure that's dry. Now for today I'm going to use the Gina K powder blue, and I think I'm going to use some sea glass for the sky, and I'm going to use light spruce for the ground. So I have some scrap paper here. So I'm going to start by figuring out exactly how far up I want the sky to go and the ground. So the kitty cats are going to be on here, kind of like this. I think I want the one with the flower in the middle. And I think I'm going to have this little fencing behind him. Something along this lines. Something along like that. So that means I want the ground to come up to about here. So I'm going to take a little pencil mark and just put it right there. So I know that's about where I want the ground to go. Alright, so I'm going to take my green. And I'm going to ink blend the bottom here, watching where my mark is, just kind of going down here. Alright, now I want a little bit of a line here, but not a real heavy one. So I'm going to fold this paper over, and I am going to put it across where my little pencil mark was. And I am just going to go across just 1 or 2 times, just so I have a little bit of a line. I don't want too dark of a line, because if you have it too dark, it starts to look a little funny. Let's see. That's good. Just a faint straight line there is all I really want. Alright, we'll make this a little darker here. Okay, so now since I have the green out, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the diorama piece that's going to hang in the middle here. And I'm going to blend this. And I absolutely want the edge to look darker because it makes it a little bit more dimensional. So that's going to be fine. So now let's work on the sky. So first I'm going to bring in the powder blue. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use the sea glass or not. And we're going to cover all the top. Now when you're doing sky, I have said this before, you don't want to make it all uniform, because if you leave a little bit of white, it just looks like there's fluffy clouds in the sky. And it looks a little bit more realistic. Alright, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so that is all the ink blending we need to do. Alright, so let's start putting our card together now. So we have our 5x7 card base. Now what we want to do first is we want to put these on first. So that way we can hide them when we put this on the back. So the one thing to remember when you put these pieces on is you want the M piece, the point, pointing in. And that way you will have something to attach your stuff to. So I'm going to get some glue. And the reason why I make these 4 inches, not 5 inches, that way you don't have to worry about lining it up on the top. And it hangs just fine, because you can see this one, it only goes up 4 inches. And the top looks absolutely fine, and that way you don't see it across the top. So we will line this up flush with the side. And I put that on upside down. We have our M pointing in. And you want that flush with the side. Now we'll take the other one, put some glue. We want the M pointing in, and we will line this up flush. All right. So now we have our 2 flaps. So now we're going to take our inked background. Now if you think here you're going to have a little bit too much bulk, again, you can take just a sliver off of 2 of the sides to make it slightly smaller than 5x7 if you're afraid you're going to end up hitting the corners here and it not folding correctly. So I'm going to slide this in here, make it flush the top and the bottom. There we go. All right, give that a second to hold. Alright, so now we have our 2 M's that are pointing in. So this is where we're going to attach our little diorama piece here. So we're going to put a little bit of glue on each of the tabs. I'm going to fold this back so you can see what I'm doing here. So this will sit in here like this. And you want that to be flush. And we're going to put the other one, lay that down, and put that in. And I'm going to center it. And you definitely want to hold all this down to make sure your card is going to fold okay. So we're just going to hold that in place for a second. Give that a chance to grab. Yeah, see, and this is why we cut that little bit off the edge, because that way now when this sits here, it's not hitting the fold. So let's just hold that for a second. Let's see if it grabbed. Yep, we're all grabbed here. So now we can see that is sitting here. And I know this did not ink properly here because I got glue here, but that's fine because we're going to have a cat there, so that will be fine. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is glue the frame together. Well, that has a chance to dry. So the blue one was the smaller one, so we'll glue that on top of the pink one. And these are flush, so they will go end to end and give you the little mat in the front. You know, and this also, doing the matte layer, gives you a little bit more structure in the front. Makes it a little bit more stiff. Right, make sure that's all nice and lined up. Now I'm going to glue one side of this, because I have found in making these, it's a lot easier to place everything if you can see your frame. But if you glue both sides, it's really kind of hard to reach in and place things. So I'm going to make a flap by just gluing the one side. And we'll make sure that is lined up flush with the top and the bottom. Everything should be nice and flush here. And we'll give that a second to hold, because then I will have a nice flap. While we let that set up a minute, let's glue the inside. So this is the 3x5 colored piece of paper. So this is 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. And this I already stamped. And this one is the Nitwit one that says "Have a Perfect Day." And this is kind of an older set, but if you go through your stash and look at all the things you have for cats, I am sure you will find something that will work. So the little message for the front, "Oh my whiskers, it's your birthday." This is an old Crafter's Companion set. And then the little cats that we're using are pink and mane, just for you. And they were the cats and this little heart. And the little fences is the same fence that came with the diamond pressed chickens. And I know a lot of us have fencing from various sets. And so use what you have. Absolutely. Use the stamp sets you have. You don't need anything special for this card. Alright, so this is now good. So now we have a flap. So now as we place things here, we know we can flip this over out of our way. But then we can peek at it to see what it's going to look like once we get everything down. So we can put our fence here. Well, let's start with this over here. We do know the "Oh my whiskers" is going to go here. So let's glue this down first, because we don't want that in the way of anything else when we're gluing it down. So I'm going to scoot this down enough to where it's maybe 1/8 of an inch showing here and here. And I'm going to glue that here. Because see, that takes up that corner there. So now we have our fencing. So I'm going to flip this over here. Now we can decide. So we'll have this big cat here. I think I'm going to put here to hide the break in the fence. And then we'll have one kitty cat sitting here. And we'll have one over here on this side. Maybe we'll put him over here to cover where the ink didn't blend very well. And then this little kitty cat will be here. And then I'm thinking, let's look. You know what? Once you put that on there, you can't see that at all. So I am going to put this kitty cat a little further up. Maybe over here someplace. Let's see what that's going to look like. That's going to look like that. I think that will be good. Alright, so let's start with gluing down the fence. And I'm going to switch to my fine tip bottle for that. I'll put some glue on here. Yeah, originally I was going to use the chickens to make this card, but Diamond Press sold out of that set already, so I didn't want to use it. But I really like these diorama cards. They're pretty easy to put together. I'll put that one here in the middle. Or the sleeping kitty. I think I'm going to put the sleeping kitty there. So the sleeping kitty I'm going to put up on foam. So I have some thin foam. This is the 1/16 inch foam that I like to use. I'm just going to put some across the top of the kitty here. Because I'm going to put a little bit of glue across the bottom of him. Because I like to ground stamps when I put foam behind them. Because if you just... Oop, I did that backwards. Pull that off. I had him upside down. Alright, try that again. So I'm going to put some foam on the top of him. Make sure I'm putting it on the top this time. There we go. And some glue across the bottom. Because what I like to do is I like to have the tops sticking out, but I do like to ground the bottom so they don't look like they're floating. So I'm going to glue the bottom of him here and put the kitty cat up like this. Now this white looks a little harsh, so I'm going to take some B000 and kind of color in around the top here, just so it doesn't look so harsh. And I'm going to go down about where the grass should start. And then I'm going to go around the bottom with the green. You could also do this with just ink blend it. If you just take the brush and go around, that also works very well. It just kind of smooths it in a little bit. There we go. So these other kitties are going to be all on the grass, so I'll be able to color them all in green. So I'm just going to take my scrap and very quickly get rid of the white. Just to soften that white a bit. Won't look quite so harsh when you put it on the paper. There we go. That's enough of that. Alright, so let's see what we have now. See, so now with this hinge, we can just flip this over and see exactly what that kitty's going to look like. So now we're going to put this kitty here. We'll put this one here, I think, and this one will be over here. So that just needs a little glue on the bottom. Actually, I think I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to put this kitty over here. And I'm going to put this one over here. Reason being, if I want to put this heart on the outside, I'll separate the pink a little bit. Now let's check this before it dries. Make sure we like the way that looks. That's all good. Alright, I think that's good. See if it needs anything else. We stand up here. There we go. Now it's released. It was sticking a little bit. There we go. Let's see. So if we take the paw and put this over here. Let's put this over here. That will come over here. I want to make sure we're not overhanging the card. I think something needs to go in the middle here. Let me look at the set. There is this little mouse here. Alright, so I'm going to be brave here. Move this over here. I'm going to get my black ink. Let me test this on my scrap first. Alright, I'm going to be brave, and I think I want the mouse to be here. Alright, there's my mouse. I think that spot just needed a little something, so I'm going to grab some grays, because that will definitely color the dye ink. So I'm going to take C3 and color the mouse. Inside of his ear. And I'm going to take C5 and go around his ears and a little patchwork on the mouse. There we go. So now they have a little mouse to play with. Yeah, that looks better. It needed a little something. Let me put a little bit more gray on here. Yeah, definitely needed the little mouse. Alright, so I think now we're ready to glue this side down. Let's we'll just put this over, press it all the way down, push everything flat. This way we'll make sure we'll go flat in the envelope. And now we stand this up. Alright, that's all dry now. There we go. So that's the outside. So for the inside, I'm just going to take this Have a Perfect Day, and I'm going to put some glue here. Flip this up. Glue this in here in the middle. And our card is finished. So it will stand up like this. Let me tilt it so you can see. There's our inside piece. We'll fold flat, and then it pops right out when you take it out of the envelope. Alright, so here's our card we made today. There's our little kitties on a diorama card. It says, "Oh my whiskers, it's your birthday." And on the inside it says, "Have a perfect day." You know, and it opens up, you know, probably about 3/4 of an inch. But it will stand. That's the nice thing about doing the diorama card like this, is that it will stand all by itself. And it stands like this. And once again, this was the dog version from Pink and Ming. And there was my chickens again. And there is the dinosaurs. They're a little mashed. Here's the dinosaurs. So I hope you like this diorama card on the regular 5x7 base. And if you did, give me a thumbs up. That's how YouTube counts everything. And until next time, stay crafty, my friends.